interesting, and it's one that, interestingly, I had a little thought around just a few weeks back. So just to drop context of what we are going to be talking about, right? So a few weeks ago, I encountered someone who is building a Web3 kind of like a learning system for Web3 devs or people who want to get started into Web3. And this person is doing it in Igbo. Like the language of learning is Igbo. And it got me thinking, okay, it feels, I don't know, I had a lot of bias and a lot of confusion around it, really, and I think today is the day we get to talk about it. So to get us started, right? Another context for us also is you guys became, like you noticed that we have recently Google actually like Google's voice became Nigerian. You notice that? Yeah, like if you want to, if Google Map is trying to direct you to tell you take your left, take your first right? So, do you think, or from your own perspective, from your own point of view, how important is it for us to have, brands build up that are building global products? How is it important? How important is it for us for them to? I feel like I'm talking about. How important is it for them to, do what Google has done to like make their products be more localized?
So I think it's actually very important for companies to actually localize their products. I think it's an example of Google creating a Nigerian voice. So it creates a sense of inclusivity. We feel, due to that innovation, we feel heard, feel seen. Because most people using, let's say Google Maps, for example, when you want to use like the audio and like the voice aspect, and then you have like indigenous street names, like let's say Ogubuike Road, and Google is pronouncing it as maybe Ogubuike, turn left to Ogubuike Road, something like that, and it can get very confusing and frustrating because these things are not like being checked. So Google introducing that makes us feel heard and creates inclusivity for like the locality.
Okay, makes sense. So, okay, you just talked about how important it makes us feel heard. It makes us feel like, okay, we are part of the demographic that we are targeting. So, you can give something. Right. So, from your own opinion, how do you think we can, maintain a consistent, adopt this, so that it's not just something like, from our own point of view, right? How can we adopt, mechanisms to make sure that whatever is happening, that products that we hope in the future, even if maybe they are not global yet, but these products, how do we adopt an approach so that it's easier or it's easy to make it localized wherever it is going to adopt?
Okay, so for me, one thing I'm going to say is like being someone that builds software. Most times, right, we try to build for a global business. Like you see someone, you'll be like, when I build an application now, I don't want just Nigerians using it. I want people from other countries using this particular approach, right? So then, in the process of doing that, I think they remove the concept of also organizing these things for individual people. So I can try to build a product and then use the same user interface or same experience for anybody in the world, right? Just like when you're using both, if you're using Google Maps, it's the same for everywhere you use them, whether outside Nigeria, inside Nigeria. But then within that Google Map, right, there are some things that you can localize, right? Like you said now, there are some aspects you can localize. So something like the voice, like you said, and then the regulations, right? Local regulations. So these are things that are customizable. So even if you are building a global business, right, try to identify like areas that can be localized, that can help people that are using your product locally to use your product well, so that they're able to like understand it. So imagine an Ogubuike using the Google Map and it's speaking all these I want to know like English, like UK, British English. The more like what's happening. So I think it's one thing that Nigerians need to start incorporating into their product, right? Because most people want to build something that can reach everybody, and they're not thinking about even localizing the content for people within Nigeria to use. So that's one way we can identify like aspects that can localize within your app. Even though it's the same user experience for everybody, we'll find like this you can localize and then use it to get the users to within that locality.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I know that one issue now with us Nigerians and people that build is this, yeah. You know when people tell you that when you are building stuff, you should build from, if you have an issue, you have a problem, you say, oh, let me build to help other people who are facing this exact issue. So the issue with us now is that we have a lot of issues. So for that, it's always easy to find, really, it's usually easy to find a problem to solve because we are in, well, let's not talk about that, but we are in a very interesting situation, right? And so one thing I try to tell people is that when you are building stuff, yes, we know that it's a bit confining. It's a bit confining building from Nigeria because so many things are just limiting you and you find yourself trying to solve those things without even knowing. Okay, but then one of these why we're having this conversation is because we want to also encourage people to, when you are building, think about the global market. Think about building for a global brand and not just a local brand. So the next question is, so what challenges do you think? So for example, if I want to build a global brand, what are the different challenges I should expect? And you know, how are maybe one or two ways in which I could tackle them?
That it was a global brand.
Yes.
Before I even answer that question, like you said, I'm a huge fan of trying to bring down problems to solve, to meet the needs of the locals, you get. So like the case in point, the use case that just the Google map navigation that now allows you to, that uses the Nigerian voice, you get. Let's not forget that before Google even got to that point where you can now use a Nigerian person's voice to navigate people, it started globally, like it started meeting the needs of their own people. So that's localized to them. It was until they got to a certain and were able to reach a certain market that they started thinking for other people. And then it's also out. So I'm a huge fan of trying to localize your problems. You solve the problem, you solve the needs of the market that you are in. And then as you progress, you can now integrate like more people, and that way you're building a product that is that solve the problem of the people. Okay, but bringing it down to, or going back to your question, how do you try to like meet up with the need, like the global needs? I think there are things that when you're building a product that you intend for everyone to use, there are things that you have to consider. So for instance, there's what you call internationalization of products. So you're building an fintech application, for instance, that you want other people from other parts of the country to be able to use it. Of course, you should make sure that it should allow for multiple languages, things like multiple languages, or should take multiple currencies and stuff like that. But before we even get there, make sure that you're able to meet the needs of the local people first. And then there are other, before you can think of like trying to like build a product that can scale globally.
Okay, thank you. So just to build upon what you have said, now this is the same question, but now I want you to like speak specifically to not just building a product, but building an AI and language model specifically that caters to the need of, global market.
All right, good day, everyone. So I'll just be giving terms and I'll be explaining terms. Will that be okay? So when we talk about like making products for people, there are two areas: localization and internationalization. When you localize, you're building for people within the area where you stay. When you internationalize, you're building for people outside the area, outside the geographical location. So one thing is that there's an advantage in localization because nobody knows your side more than you do. You understand me? So when it comes to LLMs, that's large language models, we have things called GPTs, which is generative pre-trained transformers, which is kind of like an improvement on the ordinary, like AI has been like for years, more than 50 years now. AI is more than 50 years old. If you think about it, like when it started. So it's kind of like a building on recurrent neural networks, which is kind of like a neural network. I don't want to explain neural network, and go to Google and check out what neural networks are. But these are neural networks, are equal neural networks. And these models are built on top of each other. Like where we are now is called generative pre-trained transformer. Generative means that it generates something, text, words, or something like that. Pre-trained means that it is trained on something, it was trained on the data, it was pre-trained. I thought transformer is a new type of technology where it's kind of like an improvement on recurrent neural networks. So recurrent neural networks will do with language processing. I thought when about language processing, like trying to understand language, trying to understand the English language. And in English language, when you have to talk about language, you talk about sentiments. Translation is not the same as interpretation. Do you understand me? Like somebody can tell you, are you mad? Are you feeling like I can go to preaching and tell somebody, are you mad? I don't think, am I angry? But if I come to like person say, will think I'm asking the person if the person is angry. But no, I'm not angry with you, I'm not angry with you. But if I go to Nigeria and I'll say, are you mad? The person will reply back like, why? Like waiting, like, do you understand me? So localization, that kind of language is how you do it. So when you're building for those stuff, there are ways you can do it. There's something called fine-tuning. So we have a pre-trained transformer. Are you feeling? A pre-trained transformer, that's like GPTs, any GPT, like talk about like there are different types of pre-trained transformers. There is Llama, there is Cloud, there is Gemini, there is some other stuff, Ristra. There are a lot of pre-trained transformers. There are open source ones and there are closed source ones. Now when you do that, you're fine-tuning them to meet that kind of language situation. So I would say that's the way of doing it. So there are different things that help you with fine-tuning language models. It's called something called LangChain. That's the most popular one. Some people have heard about LangChain. Sometimes you go on Twitter, you just see LangChain, it does go through. LangChain is a way of actually the word prompt engineering. Like when you talk about prompt engineering, it's a way of trying to make a GPT, a transformer or an AI understand your context, like understand the business context of where you're going. One thing about LangChain is that it's more like let's say it's like Laravel or Django, where it's batteries included and there's no much for flexibility. So you have a challenge in creating those languages. So what you now have to come to is now building on top of models, building on top of pre-trained models with what you call supervised learning. Do you understand? And there's different types of ways of supervised learning, but I'm just trying to explain. So building on top of models with supervised learning, and to do those stuff, you need data. So you need a lot of data. So what you need is, you need to understand your local place. You know, like, obviously, you know Nigeria and stuff like that, but you don't know everything about Nigeria. You need to gather data from people. So you need different combinations of skills. You need a data scientist, you understand? And somebody that can gather data for you. You understand? You need a data scientist that will gather that data and process it for you. So you need to pass it into your model, the model you're trying to make, and improve it. I don't want to go into like further details, but it's just like a general understanding. So you need to make something specific. Now, it's expensive. Like trying to train a model, like I knew, like when I did AI the first time, like I tried to make something that could scan for spams, and I was using a level, so like something that had 2 big RAM, and the computer had 2 big RAM and stuff. My computer at home, like it was like my computer, I couldn't do it other time my computer, it was just training for a long time. I couldn't finish it, I couldn't go into the next, I was doing the training, I couldn't go into the next phase. Then after some years, after I've given up on it, Google now came out with Google Colabs. There's something called Google Colabs. It's for you to write, because your computer is not strong enough. Like even some of you have MacBooks like 16 gig RAM, what is the processing speed and all this kind of stuff. See, there's some kind of AI stuff that will to blow your MacBook to like trash. Like if you like have M3, to blow up into trash it. So when you try to do that, you now there are platforms that help you to train your models very well, like in those skills. But it's still that you still consider cost because it isn't somebody's machine, somebody has to pay for it. So that's it.
All right. So I think one thing I personally learned from that is that, well, if you want to go into AI, if you consider outsourcing so like use a machine that is virtual, a virtual machine is not using your own, so that your PC doesn't crash. Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask Maureen the next question. So we've talked about localizing and all. Now, do you know any actual sample or any actual example rather of a product that was global and at a point, so aside from obviously Google Maps we just talked about, so at a point this product was really built for a particular demographic, right? And then eventually, because it was a global product, it had to be localized for different group of people. So do you know any does anybody know of any
Most of the schools.
most of the streaming services?
Yeah, like streaming services, Netflix, all this stuff.
Okay.
I have a friend, like the guy is crazy. He's a crazy guy. Like I'm like, the guy is insane. What he wants to do. The guy is so like I know friends. I know someone that it's not one of them, but it's not this guy. But I know someone that can read a language, like a book on a new programming language, and then say you create an app based on that programming language you just read. And you've been trying to learn that language for a long time, and the guy doesn't do that. So there are crazy people out there. So this guy, he has been in this. He's Nigerian. His name is Steve Babs. I don't want to get into his space. But the thing is, I've been trying to plan time with him and all this kind of stuff. That's why I wanted to do this Saturday, but illness, I fell sick. You understand? So he's using Splinch. So Splinch is a language model that actually helps you translate between different languages. Are you following? So what it helps you do is that somebody speaking Yoruba, you can actually speak in Igbo and translate it there. Another thing is, there's this lady, what's her name again? What's her name? She's opening up Igbo API, what's her name again? It's always reminding me. It's on Twitter, she's I've forgotten her name, but she's working on systems that make she's working on different products that localize people language, making it listen. So follow those people. Like look for people like who is working on this stuff in Nigeria. It's hard to find. You understand? Like I joined data science Nigeria, and we were showing a lot of gibberish. I had to run away from there because I didn't know what was happening. So, but there are data communities, are you following? Those ones, and they have rooms for engineers. But engineers, not data scientists, can't compete on their level. Like it's like somewhere that is UI UX designer saying that can build a website better than a software engineer, like as part of like a software engineer. And so there's some things like UI UX designer can do. The website will find out your own, but in terms of functionality, you have that advantage. So when you have, that's why it comes to like collaborating with them. So you start thinking, if you want to delve deeper into that stuff, that's when you now stop thinking of yourself as an engineer and start thinking of yourself as a scientist. You know what I mean? So I just feel that's how we understand that stuff.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I want to pick certain hats. Now I want us to, So how do you feel when, okay, for example, for Google has, so at the time they were working on localizing maps, they actually had a local team that worked on it, right? But then obviously there are some other people. I mean, I don't know who has ever tried to maybe generate like an image and you tell it what will Enugu Independence Day look like in 100 years time, and show you spaceship. Like it show you very interesting, and you're like, okay, where did you get this information from, right? So how important is it that when these different brands want to localize a particular product, how important is it that they involve the people who are actually involved? So if they would want to, because personally I think if they would want to maybe look at what Enugu should be like 100 years from now, you should be talking to people who were in Enugu 100 years before and who are in Enugu right now, and then from there you now know what to look like, right? So how important is it for us to really be involved
Okay, so I'm going to start with talking about the problem, right? The issue now is when it comes to Africa and Nigeria as the center now. Nigeria doesn't have, okay, Nigeria has training data for AI, but they are not high quality. You understand? So if you search Nigeria now in the map, like Google, you get like a lot of things that you, that is in Nigeria, will not want to be like, is this in Nigeria that I'm staying in Nigeria? So, talking about Nigeria, when you come to Nigeria, first of all, we have like over 500 languages, has different dialects too. You understand? So, if you don't talk to these people, if you don't talk to people within those places, there's no way I'm going to get the authentic data, right? Because I can be an Igbo man from Enugu and someone from Ebonyi State has a different dialect, but you cannot expect me as an Enugu man, even though it's local, you cannot expect me as an Enugu man to tell you about Ebonyi State. I don't know how to speak their dialects. I don't know like a lot of things about them. Right? But if you're able to get like data from those people, from the local community there, you're able to like actually get the authentic data from them. So that's why it's important, like when you are building some of these localized products, right? You meet these people, go to maybe villages. There's this thing that they used to do, like even though this survey is usually useless, when they go to farmers in places to meet them to talk about different things like problems they have and all of those stuff. You can do those kind of things for your product and make it digital, and then get this data that, but AI depends on training data, right? So there's no way that AI will be able to understand these people if they don't have enough quality data to train. And then again, when it comes to, apart from the training data, you can work with researchers within that community. There are people, like you said, there are a lot of people that are actually involved in doing this. You know, you can outsource some of these things to them because you're able to get the right people and to get you what you need. So you can work with the local researchers to get all the information you need and the training that you need to train your AI. That way, you're able to like actually, so that you're able to build a big picture of what a place should be like, and not based on what other people do. Because if it's like that, your man that is Igbo man can just bring on training data and just tell them anything, and then you search online and say that all Igbo men are terrorists. You understand? But if it's local, you're able to like actually get the right information about these people and their culture and their
Thank you. So that makes a lot of sense, right? I think the next question I was going to ask, but then considering the previous panel was, so how, let me ask it. So, say for example, somebody here wants to build an application that integrates certain AI models or an AI model. And obviously, if I'm here and maybe I don't have money to travel, and say for example, I'm building for maybe myself and I'm building for Nigeria and I'm building for maybe somewhere like Malaysia, but I don't have money to go to Malaysia, right? How do I get that information? Like how do I get that sufficient data that is actually going to be? Okay, sorry, and also guys, please write your questions. We'll get into that session. Sorry. So how do I get actual sufficient data, like good information that is not just nonsense?
Okay, so just like explained, right? So LLMs is what I think really they're just large language models that are pre-trained. So if you're trying to get data or you're trying to build an application for here in Nigeria for its title or an application that they expect people in Malaysia to use, of course it will make more sense or it will feel home to them if you're working with a model that is tied to the Malaysian language or maybe their culture that is tied to their demographic. Do you get? And so really, what are those things? It's still text data from the internet, text data from their social media, text data from just about anything on the internet, and then download
data and then you try to like retrain it, you try to like filter all of those noises, like just like someone said, maybe you take out all the special characters and try to clean it up to make it, suit into what you're trying to do, and so the major problem here is even the how accurate is the data that you're working with, and whatever data that you have, is it tied to their culture, is it tied to their demographic? And so once you're able to like get something like that, then yes, you can from here in Nigeria build an application that is tied to like people in Malaysia, an application that they can feel, they can relate to, that it feels home. So this is what LLM does for you, right? You can, from wherever you are, you can have access to data from anywhere as long as it's retrained, as long as it's, So yeah, that's the one. That's one of the things of what generative AI is doing for us right now.
Okay. So I have a little bit of concern about that because, so for my own view now, as he said now, if for example, as an Igbo girl, if maybe I have some kind of beef with maybe, I don't know, maybe Calabas, and I just decide that, okay, I go online and I just start seeing a lot, like I just start putting out a lot of things that are not true about them. Now that information is, so maybe, so when that data is gotten, the form in which it is you can give it to an AI, and the AI does not recognize as rubbish. It's valid data, but it is false. So that's like, I think, like Emeka, can you speak to that? Like, how do we manage that? Like, how do we ensure? Because by the time you are done getting data, if you ever try to train a model, you see that the data is so much, you can't, there's no way you want to go in, like, to verify one after the other. Really, so how do we, like, handle that?
Okay. So, artificial intelligence, in simple terms, is teaching a machine how to reason, like a machine trying to reason. Are you following? So those machines, at their normal stage, they are very, very stupid. Are you following? Like, OpenAI for not trained copy and all this kind of stuff, the machines and stuff like that are actually very dumb. So the thing is that based on what they've been giving, it has to be refined things. Are you following? It's what you call refined things. So like in software engineering, it's what you call like app refinement, where you refine an app to make it work better and more performant. Are you following? So you do refinement. That means you get people around that area to see, they'll judge, does this stuff meet a particular person? So in like, for example, these are LLMs are trained and all this kind of stuff. It's a reinforcement model, although it's kind of like an advanced model of it. Reinforcement model, which there's data given to them, and there's also like something expected results. Are you following? Expected results. So something is refining it, and so it's just like in the way of language models and so they've been able to make it in such a way that they create a transformer. The transformer is just on that the stuff that's trying to predict more stuff, as you give it more biases, as you give it more corrections. It's not training itself based on that, like training itself based on that. So that's what it is. So what you get is that if you see something is wrong also, you refine it, get people that in those areas, are you following? You say, okay, this is wrong, this result is wrong, this result is wrong, this result is wrong. Now go back to the drawing board and we train the model to learn from his mistakes and learn from that to get better. So that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay. So back to Maureen. Okay, let's talk a little bit of engineering. Let's get a little bit more technical. Right? So I think the first question I would ask you is, have you created an AI? Have you ever worked on AI before?
No, I have not.
Okay. So this was my question on balance. But anyways, so what I was going to ask was, what are the possible techniques? So say I want to, walk around creating localized applications. So what are the possible technical challenges I can experience?
So I've had friends that have to work with AI. So I can say that some technical challenges that I've encountered, like let me give an example of language something for Nigerian language now. There are diverse, over 300 languages in Nigeria. So now how do we create a language that is like, that every one of these like ethnic groups or different like cultures can agree with? If you bring a Yoruba man to speak English, there's definitely going to be maybe a little bit of mother tongue interference, same with like an Igbo person. So using the story of the people that introduced the Nigerian voice into the Igbo ecosystem, they said that they had to create, like, set out rules or standards that are acceptable by a majority of like users. So they had to set like, okay, these are the phonetic sounds that we're going to use that would be general and not like biased towards like a certain culture. Like you don't use like certain maybe sounds that tend more towards like the Yoruba culture and then leave people being biased or anything like that. So that's one technical problem. Also, another problem can be data scarcity. So there are some like, let's say areas where we need data and we don't have like enough data to train this AI model. So we have to also like offer incentives to people that can also volunteer their efforts and come and be like, okay, yes, I would like to like help or offer my services. And then when you offer incentives, you get more people that will be able to provide data to train this AI models.
Okay. And you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so some of the technical challenges you have based on what I said, cultural bias, right? Then the way people perceive things, right? Because and like for different people, right? And you can see in Yoruba, listen, I said the first time I went to Lagos, I perceived Yoruba people that are very loud, right? But with time, you find out that for many of them, that's the way they talk and it's not how to live. And then for some other places, it's not that way. So for me being a human being, it took some time for me to realize that okay, this is this people's way of life. Now imagine AI, right? That humans are feeding data to. So one of the challenges you face when you do this kind of thing, you have to understand cultural differences that are different between everyone, and then the bias that could be introduced to this thing based on who you're asking. Yeah, so those are like some of the challenges like this. And then training AI is very expensive. Like what is this we're talking about? To train AI don't be like it's more. So it's so expensive but then everyone is saying AI. But everyone is forgetting that this thing costs like a lot of money. These are like some of the challenges.
Okay, thank you so much. So the last set of questions will just be around language and culture generally evolves, right? So how do we, how do we keep tabs on these things to know, okay, so I have done a lot of things, I've done my research, I've analyzed my results, but then these languages are evolving continually. So how do I just be up to date and not have an outdated software?
So the thing with AI, right, just like human, you're able to like adapt to new cultures and then changes, right? Whenever there are changes in culture, right, it's less for you to retrain your AI based on this new information. So AI is able to learn what they know. So it means that at every point in time, you need to keep gathering this data and then retraining this model, right? It's not perfect initially, like just like Google Voices was not perfect initially, right? But with time, with data, as data got available, right? They keep training, and then it's at least not still perfect, but then at least it's better than what it used to be. So what you can do for this is to always maybe have a mindset that every time you keep gathering it and then training your models, and that will be able to like learn the project and then that comes with it.
Okay, she wants to ask.
I think another way would also be to like always going to request for feedback from like local users, because who else will know about changes in the culture than the local users themselves? So when they provide this feedback, they tell you, oh, this is not this, the way this thing used to be before, it's no longer like this, and then you can effect these changes, and also updating the data that you feed this language medium to also like make it up to date.
Okay, thank you. So, based on like what they've said, right? So we've seen that okay, there are ways in which we get the data. So how do we protect the data of this data? How do we? Because there are certain countries that are lawless. I'm not going to call any countries, right? But we have certain lawless countries in which, in fact, imagine a country that doesn't even have its own accurate data store. Like you can't, everything is just like that. Right? So it's easy to take advantage of such people because there are really no policies that are protecting them. So as good engineering people that we have, right? How do we ensure that these guys actually are protected?
Okay, so when it comes to training a model, so there are some standards that must be followed. So things like sensitive data. At that point, first of all, you collect the data. So there's a data collection process where you take just about anything. And then after that, the next part is where you process the data. So there are some standards that need to be met. So things like removing sensitive data and removing all of those things that that could potentially cause. So that's even a standard we don't follow. So at that point, those things are even removed, and so anybody that is worried about their security is really just, I think the major problem or the major fear that people have is just knowing that, okay, if I'm, for instance, if I'm constantly watching about football, the next thing I'm getting ads about football. So I think that just puts in some sort of fear. But the major thing that people are scared of is like, their security, their sensitive data being used by. So all of those things are even taken care of. So all of those sensitive data are taken out, before in that process of trying to like process the data before it gets to the point where to be trained. So when it comes to like training a model and security, that's not even you should even get past gears about that, but those things are really taken care of.
Okay.
So in terms of also that everything she said is very valid, understand? But I still feel like there are policies in place, I think. So if you're going to store data for anything, no matter what it is, there are policies, security policies. Healthcare data has security policies attached to it. You understand? If I know how someone's heart works and in which way someone's heart, I can do something, I can plan an event that will do interesting. You understand? I'm not saying that I can do that to you, like, so you guys can do something. But I'm just saying, so the way they are some policies in place that protect you. That's why there has to be regulation sometimes around this stuff. There has to be good regulation. I'm not saying like regulation as impede innovation, but regulation that makes people accountable, and responsible for the way they do it. And so like imagine now like you're using a fintech app. I always thought you will see your account balance and how to spend the money on the internet and stuff like that. It's just going to be, do you understand? The company has broken that trust. So even as you make AI products, if you're dealing with sensitive data, then when your privacy policy, your policy or your terms of agreement, please put it there. Make it clean and know. I know like in privacy policies, the law people don't do because it's 12 pages of small text and make like 10 pixels of text. Like now to put your eyes, but make it plain. I like companies that when you read their terms of use and so they make it very plain. Hey, this is what we're going to take from you. This is what we're going to take from you. This is what we're going to take from you. Are you okay with this? Then you move on with it. Like they make it plain, short, like make it like a summary of it. I can read the long form somewhere else. But I just feel like that's policy in place. That's why you have like cybersecurity experts also, or cybersecurity people that will come and say, hey, this stuff you're doing is going to be illegal. If you do this kind of stuff, like this, it's prison that you land inside. And so understand that.
Okay, thank you. So just quickly look at the questions. So I feel like this needs a little bit of context. But this person is asking that does LLMs pose a significant threat to our culture? Personally, I don't really understand the question. But
You want to give context to your question?
do you want to give context? Like, do you want to give context? So you asked, does that do they pose a threat, a significant threat to our culture?
I was trying to it's never right. It's always an error there, some sort of. I was actually you are trying to generate what to translate English to in ChatGPT. I've tried that. Anyone has tried it before. I've tried that. It's always wrong. It's always wrong. So I was asking maybe for someone that would try to learn with ChatGPT or something like that. Like, does it pose a threat to it? That's what I'm asking.
Does anyone think that?
Personally, I don't think it poses a threat. I understand, like, from what the previous panel session, we were talking about how sometimes the data that fed can be inactive and stuff like that. Then, if we are so much passionate about, like, our cultural heritage, we can also volunteer and help these people that are involved in training these things, offer our services. We know, okay, this is actually wrong, then you can put the right thing. I think for it will also, if there is a wrong, like if there's a wrong translation at some point, they give you the option to correct it. And then it gets sent to them and then they evaluate it, like they are experts who evaluate it and then to integrate it. So we can also help, but I don't think it's like a threat to our culture. It's basically going to improve it because more people can assess, like see, oh, I can try and learn people language from like this language.
Alright, so there are two more questions, but we are like really short of time, so that's it. So let's say 1 minute max. Alright, so this question is how can multilingual LLMs be trained on data sets in various languages, enabling them to communicate and generate human-like text tailored to a specific demographic?
Alright, so multilingual LLMs. Yeah, like I said, I think it's about even in companies like Google, they don't do internationalization, they still do localization where they go to the grassroots, like those nations, get people that are there to like make things, you understand, make the product kind of align with those systems. For example, now if you're making a fintech for let's give an example, like you're making a fintech app for like Europe, you know that their number system is different from us that are in Nigeria, like in some European countries, especially like France, Germany, they use dots as commas and comma as full stop. So sometimes you see like I see like 1,000, sometimes you confuse you first of all, you have that gauge and understand it. So in those kind of stuff, when you're trying to build for multiple languages, you need to understand the context of how they are, what this kind of thing is. That's why, and they are teaching models that do that kind of stuff. So you don't need to build all those things from scratch. Especially like in those areas, can say, okay, the only thing is I don't know if it's enough for Igbo language or Nigerian language. But let's say you're building for this thing. You have localized retraining models. There's a place you can actually go and see retraining models. It's called cogniface.co. You can go there and see retraining models, see their accuracy, see their score, see all this kind of stuff, see their tokens, and some other stuff. When you go there, it now tell you, okay, this one will be more likely to be trained upon to give you more accuracy. So you cannot fine-tune those ones, give you more accurate results. So I feel that is, but if you don't see anyone, then some work has to be done to create those models like all for multiple applications.
Okay, thank you. So this question is very Interesting. So the person said, how do you create a personalized AI? So maybe I want an AI that just like literally a personal assistant for myself. So how do I do that without exposing kind of sensitive or personal data?
I think for this right, sometimes when you are training something, right, there are some information you can give these things. You don't need to give them all the information about yourself, right? If you know the data that this AI requires to perform, like if you are personalizing AI, and maybe you know that this AI needs to know about your work, this AI needs to know maybe your name and your age, just feed them that information. You don't need to start telling them your account balance and all those information that are sensitive and that are not required. Just minimize the amount of information you are giving to them. That way you don't like expose sensitive language. And also there's this method called anonymization, right? Where data, you can feed data to something and then you are able to track where the data came from. So even if I feed this AI sensitive data, no one knows that it's from me. So there are like methods to be used to use that. You can use that method on data, and then even if people know that this is sensitive data, they are not able to attribute it to a particular person. So these are like some of the techniques you can use to train your AI model, and then even if they have sensitive information, they won't be able to track it to anybody. So that way, they are really it's those methods, right? You're able to train them in a personal way without having issues with your sensitive data.
All right, thank you very much. So final question is, so this person is saying, like it feels like the models we have available are available to only a privileged few. So that how can it be made more available to everyone so that when they say ChatGPT 3.5 doesn't have information, like what it gives you is even more than 4 gives you. So how can we remove that line that everybody just gets premium stuff?
Okay, I'll just say one thing. The thing is, like I said earlier, right? AI, like anything AI is very expensive. Getting training data is very expensive, right? So at the end of the day, there are like little to do to get behind some of these things here. Because the people they're able to do this large amount of training, large companies or firms that have the money to do so. And then some of them can, like, you go online and you see people complain about this company is introducing bias into their data because they're the ones training them and you cannot really do anything about it. I feel like one way you can solve it is, like if you look around, there are like competitions coming like from other places. So you see Grok that Elon Musk brought up and then competing with OpenAI, right? That way, I feel like when you have a lot of competitions, and then what it introduces, it makes globally people like start bringing out laws and standards on what AI should be, right? And then maybe those rules and regulations can help to make it easily accessible by the common user. It's like something that's in progress, and at this point, you have to have some amount of resources before you're able to access those data.
So the technical with OpenAI is like that's a non-profit that was open source. When we were helping around to make OpenAI better, and went through source and went for profit. I believe it's called the source going for profit. I believe a lot of advancements in the world can be with open source, and there are a lot of open source to actually look into. There's Llama, there's Mistral, there are open source products. You can keep your eyes open for that. Just keep your eyes open and see that. Then data sets. Some platforms have data sets. I know that Google has like some data sets on some certain languages and stuff like that, where you can actually train on like or you need to carry data sets. And so the only thing is I don't know how up to be able to data sets are. Another place to get data sets is scalable.com, where you can see open source data sets by other individuals. Like other individuals will just come and show you the data sets. Scalable is like a haven for data scientists and people that are interested in data. Like if you want to compete, you want to do a lot of stuff, you don't have data, you can go to those platforms and do it. Then hugging face.com. to see like open source models that are available. So that's open source models and things like open source. Those should be open source models where you can use them. So just keep your eyes open for that. Then if you see people coming like volunteering for those projects, open source projects, that's why open source is very important. Okay? So you have people that have more accessibility of all this stuff. Because open AI, I feel it's not that open, it's not close to AI. It was open AI before. I feel that's why even Elon Musk was angry and mad that he was all this kind of stuff. Although Elon Musk has his own agenda, a lot of things there. But the site up as open, that's why it came there. So that's how it is. So open source can help with that.
All right, so thank you. I'll just add one final thing. So in case you are maybe not so technical and you don't really even understand how to go and be training your own model and all this stuff, or you would like to try out some stuff, maybe for the person that talked about creating their own personal AI. So you could just try learning prompt engineering and get maybe one of the APIs that already have these AIs. Yeah, so get your own API key, learn prompt engineering, train the basically just give it really, really good prompts and you will do something fairly easy. So thank you so much, guys.